Well, this morning we are delighted to have Reverend Dr. James Gaither back with us. It's always a pleasure to have you, Jim. And his topic for the day is what the true self is. And just a quick bio, we're pretty familiar with James, but we know that he's a Unity minister and has a MA and also a doctorate in philosophy and theology. He's taught in the Unity Ministerial and Spiritual Education for over 30 years and has been a minister in Unity churches for over 12 years. Jim is semi-retired but does some guest speaking. Thank you, Jim. And is an adjunct professor for Holos Seminary, Unity Urban Ministerial School, and the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. Welcome, James. The floor is yours.
Oh, all right. Thank you. Well, ready to go then. So I guess we begin with meditation, yeah?
Okay.
All right. So I invite you to get comfortable first. And we begin by being simply aware, being aware of our breathing. You have the power to control the rhythm of your breathing, the depth of it. Hold your breath, let it go. There's always that rhythm of receiving and giving. It's reflected in our breathing. We give to life, we receive from life. As we breathe out and breathe in, we are feeling our interconnection with all life on earth. We're all breathing the same atmosphere. We are literally physically connected by breath and by the earth itself. As you sit comfortably, you can feel your feet resting on the earth. Earth, again, is shared with all living creatures. This way, too, we are interconnected. We are one. And with the flow of your breathing, there is an energy, the universal energy. Throughout the universe, here and now, right there in your body. That energy flows not only in your breathing, but the beating of your heart, the movement, the flow of blood, circulation. One harmonized form, your physical body. One with the universe. You're feeling your oneness with the universe and the very energy in your body. From the crown of your head to the soles of your feet. It's sometimes called the life force. Hinduism is called prana, manifesting energy of God. Taoism is called qi. Goes by different names, but we feel it, we flow in it, we flow through it, and we direct it. Even as we can choose our breath patterns, or we can let them simply settle into a natural flow. We walk, when we move, when we work, we are directing that energy of our bodies. When we speak, we are directing that energy. And when we think, we are directing that energy. This is the inmost part of that direction. And so we use affirmations to direct the energy within our bodies. spirit, I am whole and free. In spirit, my body is harmonized. My body is a perfect idea in the infinite mind. The infinite mind provides all that I need in all situations. So as I feel the life force, as I use my mind, which is connected to that universal mind, I am one. And we are one with each other, and we are one with all others. So we hold others in that same consciousness. You are whole, free, and harmonious. You are a perfect idea, the infinite mind. You are in the flow of the chi, the prana, the universal energy. And this infinite mind and universal energy provides for your every need. In knowing our oneness, we are feeling what we call divine love, the Holy Spirit. We connect with each other through that consciousness of love, compassion, mercy. This realization of oneness, we find peace. This realization of oneness is faith, faith that can move mountains. So we accept this as our reality. And just for a few moments in silence, let each one experience that divine flow and the divine mind right where you are. Be still and know the I am, God. And this knowing of our oneness with the infinite power, the infinite mind, we are knowing that all that we need is already ours. We choose to receive it. We give thanks for the unlimited good that is our divine inheritance. We give thanks in this receiving and also in our giving forth our consciousness, our creativity, our love to harmonize the world, to bless the world. We give thanks, accept our good, and so it is. Amen. If we bring our attention back, I assume the next part of the service is my talk, yes? Okay, so I'm going to do a little, let's see, sharing of images and stuff. So as I find the thing here, hold on for just a second. There we go. All right, so my talk today is about the self, what is the true self, what the true self is. This is something I try to get in touch with, is my true self. I've noticed almost every time I begin a sentence with the words I am, I follow up with words that are not entirely true. If I say I am a Unity minister, that is only partly true. I am more than that, and I'm not essentially that. I've not been a Unity minister my whole life, so I'm not essentially a Unity minister. That's not myself. The same would be true if I were to say I'm a husband or a father or an idiot. I have not always been a husband or a father, so that's not essentially what I am. I have in the past behaved like an idiot, but I've not always behaved that way, as far as I can tell. I've noticed that many people I know like to identify with certain personality types, right? So one of the popular things these days is to identify with a number in the Enneagram. I don't know if any of you are into that. I'm a, I don't even know what my number is. I'm a 7. I don't know. I'm a 9. I don't know, right? I have frequently also heard people in the past and still in the present, I've heard folks identify with certain kinds of psychological types, such as those of the Myers-Briggs personality test, which you might be familiar with. And so they'll say, you know, I'm an I'm an ESTP or something like that, right? Some kind of little 4 letters that stand for different aspects of personality, a Jungian sort of perspective on personality. So this Myers-Briggs theory, uh, with its types, consists of tendencies rather than unchanging, predictable patterns of behavior or predictions of one's future. I looked up my supposed type and found famous people of the same type. Right? Uh, so, supposedly the same type of personality as I have: Elon Musk, Friedrich Nietzsche, Karl Marx, Isaac Newton, Mark Zuckerberg, Bobby Fischer, a host of others, all different kinds of people. Now, what do all these people have in common besides this personality type? I don't know. Um, I can't really see any resemblance, though, between me and any of them. Or really, I can't see that much, connection between them and each other. My personality type can't be the essence of what I am, the self. Otherwise, I would be a ruthless tech capitalist, a relativist philosopher, a communist, a theoretical physicist, a social media mogul, or a chess master, none of which am I. So, what can I say I am that is essentially true? If I were to say I am the son of Arthur and Janice Gaither, that would seem to be essentially true. I have been their son since I was born. My parents have passed, but I'm still their son. Really, though, being the son of Art and Jan, as they are known, or Bud and Jan, as they were known, doesn't say all that much about what I am. And I know this because I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters, right? They're also children of Art and Jan. And none of us are identical in personality or interests or occupations. I mean, obviously we have some common characteristics, but not all that much. We're pretty different people. So being the children of these parents um, doesn't essentially define us. Now, what if I had lived other lives before I was born into this one? Many people believe in reincarnation. If I had reincarnations before I was born into this body, then even saying that I'm the son of Art and Jan would not be essentially true of me, if that were the case. Jesus said, according to the Gospels, before Abraham was, I am. Now, was that statement exclusively true for Jesus? Could I truly make the same statement? Could anyone but Jesus make the same statement? Well, if there is reincarnation, then it could be true for some people today to say, before Abraham was, I am. Not everyone, of course. I saw an estimate that there were 100 million people born before Abraham, guessing at his date, right? There are over 8 billion people living today, right? So, excuse me, 100 million people could possibly say, truly, before Abraham was, I am, right? If you take into account the idea of reincarnation. But that means that at most 1% of the current world population could possibly truthfully say, before Abraham was, I am. We are judging by the idea of reincarnation. Now, I personally do not recall being incarnated before Abraham, but that proves nothing. I don't personally recall being born this time, but I'm pretty sure I was. Perhaps I'm being too literal. I think Jesus is saying before Abraham was, I am, was not necessarily referring to reincarnation in the conventional sense. As you know, when Moses asked God's name, what is your name? God said, I am. In another place in the Gospels, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the light of the world. That word way is interesting to me. That in Taoism, the word Tao means way, and it refers to the ultimate reality of things, that's sort of the way of the universe. So Jesus was saying all these things. I am this way, the truth, the life, and the light of the world. Now, mystic theology, which I kind of consider my religion, I suppose, mystic theology affirms that God is truth, life, and light. God is the way of the universe. So if we interpret Jesus' sayings according to mystic theology, and it seems Jesus was a mystic, he was indicating that his true self was God. I am this way, truth, and life. I'm this light. Now, this idea is found throughout uh, the whole mystic tradition that's found throughout the world and throughout the ages. In Hinduism, the self is regarded as identical with God. This one self is the root and essence of all being, of the whole universe, one self. They have the saying, Atman is Brahman, which means Atman means self, Brahman refers to God, and so Atman is Brahman, means the self is God. So you have the I am of Judaism and Christianity seems to be identical in terms of what it refers to. It seems to be identical with Atman, or the self of Hinduism, the I am, the self, the Atman. It's all the same thing. There's only one divine I am, one self in mystic theology. According to mystic teachings, it is true to say not just I am what I am, as God did in the book of Exodus and as Popeye did in his cartoons, I am what I am, but also true to say I am God. In fact, that would be the absolute truth, according to the mystic theology. It's absolutely true to say I am God, but it's not entirely safe to say I am God in public. Now, according to Sufi lore, there was this Sufi mystic named Al-Halaj. Al-Halaj taught people to find God in their own souls. You may not be familiar with Al-Halaj, but you may be familiar with Rumi. Rumi wrote about Al-Halaj. He considered him as a kind of teacher or mentor. And Al-Halaj would say things like, there's nothing in my cloak but God. And another time he said, I saw my Lord with the eye of my heart. I asked him, "Who are you?" He replied, "You." Once, after having an ecstatic experience of union with Allah, Ahalaj joyfully proclaimed, "I am God." So they killed him. A story of Ahalaj is more complicated, but you get the gist of it. Not always safe to go around saying the absolute truth, "I am God." Now, this is not simply a part of Hinduism and Sufi mysticism and Islamic tradition. We also find this idea within the Christian tradition and Christian mysticism. There was a French mystic named Marguerite Porete, and she spoke of this idea that's found in Christian mysticism of the experience of union with God, and she spoke from that consciousness. She wrote a little book called The Mirror of Simple Souls. In that book, she wrote, "I am God, says love, for love is God, and God is love. And this soul is God by the condition of love. I am God by divine nature, and this soul is God by righteousness of love." Her little book, The Mirror of Simple Souls, was very popular, and in a way, it was too popular for her own good. She went around saying things like, "I am God." And so she was executed in 1310 for writing such things about the mystical union with God, that possibility through love and meditative prayer. Now, you may not have heard of Marguerite, but you probably have heard of Meister Eckhart. He was actually an acquaintance of Marguerite, and he had similar views expressed in somewhat similar ways. But even though he lived in that same time frame, he was not executed for heresy. And that's probably mainly because he had the good sense to die before his trial. In any case, my point is you can truthfully, sort of absolutely truthfully say, "I am God." You just have to be careful who you tell, unless you want to end up like Al-Halaj or Marguerite Porete, perhaps some other mystics. You can probably, though, tell yourself, "I am God," without any immediate danger. Now, we find this in sort of the religious aspect of the mystical tradition, but we also find this idea of oneself, and this is kind of the point, the self that is God. We find this within the context of scientific thought. You may have heard of Erwin Schrödinger. Schrödinger was a genius. He was one of the greatest scientists of the 20th century. He developed the mathematics of the wave mechanics. So that's at the heart of quantum mechanics. And Schrödinger arrived at the idea of oneself by a fairly simple and elegant deduction. He began with two premises that seem self-evidently true, okay, but they also seem contradictory. So here's this discoverer of quantum mechanics thinking about implications of the new science, the new physics. So he had these two premises that he started with. Two things that seemed self-evidently true to most of us. The first one is that my body functions as a pure mechanism according to the laws of nature. Okay, so that's the idea of determinism. Everything's determined by physical laws, right? And so that's presumably what my body is. That's how it functions, right? So that's the first premise. That seems true, at least to a scientist, right? The second premise was, yet I know by incontrovertible direct experience that I am directing the motions. I am directing my motions, of which I foresee the effects that may be fateful and all important. In which case, I feel and take responsibility for them. So on the one hand, nature, everything's just a mechanism. On the other hand, I'm moving my body, right? And I move it in ways that I can foresee the effects of it. So then Schrodinger goes on to say the only possible inference from these two facts is, I think, that I in the widest meaning of the word, that is to say, every conscious mind that has ever said or felt, I am the person, if any, who controls the motions of atoms, according to the laws of nature. There is only one thing, and what seems to be a plurality is merely a series of different aspects of this one thing, produced by a deception. The same illusion is produced in a gallery of mirrors. Even if a skilled hypnotist succeeded in blotting out entirely all of your reminiscences, you would not find that he had killed you. In no case is there a loss of personal existence to deplore, nor will there ever be. Schrodinger's conclusion, what he knew about physics, was that there has to be only this one self, and that in effect, this one self that I am, in effect, that all are, is what moves the atoms according to the laws of nature, is the way he put it. At this point, you may be feeling shock about the whole idea of thinking I am God to yourself or saying that. Okay. But perhaps I can help alleviate some of that if you are feeling that shock, because grammatically and logically, to say I am God does not mean that I alone am God or that I am all that God is. It means that I am part of, but not necessarily all of God. Suppose I have a cat. I'll call my cat Spot, right? Now, if I say Spot is a cat, that does not mean that Spot alone is a cat, or Spot is the only cat, or all the cats are Spot. It means that Spot is one part of the cat family, right? Obviously, Spot is a cat, one of many. Likewise, if I am to say I am God, that does not necessarily mean that I alone am God, but only that I am part of what God is. I am part of the God family in the same way that Spot is a part of the cat family. If, on the other hand, again, according to the same kind of grammatical logic, on the other hand, I were to say God is me, that would logically and grammatically mean that I might be more than God. Just as if you were to say the sky is, you say the sky is blue, you know that the sky is not the only thing that's blue, but if you were to say blue is the sky, then you would be saying, sorry, blue is, anyway, never mind, back up on that. Okay, so let me, sorry, I confused myself. Okay, so if I said God is me, that would logically mean that I might be more than God. I'm certain from personal experience that I am not more than God. So when Jesus said, another thing that he supposedly said is, I am the way, the truth, the life, the light. Logically, he was not saying, or grammatically, he was not saying, I alone am the way, truth, life, and light. But rather, he was saying, I am part of the way of the universe, part of the truth, part of the light, part of the light, life. Not I alone am God, but I am part of God. Myself is part of God. So this is the upshot, I think, of mysticism and of, I suppose, quantum physics, at least from the perspective of Schrodinger, perhaps a few others, right? Myself is part of God. And myself, therefore, moves the atoms of nature, I suppose, as Schrodinger would put it. So by the transitive property, all this being true, yourself is part of God. If I had a cat named Spot, Spot's self would be part of God. So would the self of Schrodinger's cat if Schrodinger had a cat. Right? So the essence of myself is not my body, my personality, my position, or being the offspring of my parents. The essence of myself is not a series of past lives that I may or may not have had. The essence of myself is God, the one self. The essence of my body, my personality, my positions in life, my family relations, the essence of all that is God. The essence of what I am is eternal being, infinite mind, infinite consciousness, infinite truth, life, and love, light. It's the essence of what I am, not all these other things. And all that I may ever need or desire is already mine, already part of my essence, for all is God, or in God, and God is my essence. God is within me, in my soul, as Allah said. By the transitive property, all that you may ever need or desire is already yours, already part of your experience, part of your, I should say, part of your essence. All that you may ever need or desire is already yours, already a part of your essence. What I am then includes the sum and synthesis of everything I have ever experienced, consciously or unconsciously, this life or others. All my thoughts, feelings, perceptions, memories, and actions, part of what I am. That means everything I have experienced is a particle, or if you prefer, a vibration of what I am. Scientists say that atoms and light can behave either like particles or waves. They are wavicles. This picture on the slide there is representation of wavicles, an actual photograph that was taken. Wavicles. Looks like a wave from one perspective, looks like points, particles on another. Anyway, all of that, all of the wavicles are part of my consciousness. Every place that is a part of my consciousness is a wavicle, if you will, of what I am. The humblest shack and the grandest palace I have ever seen, or that even are wavicles of what I am. I do not therefore need to acquire a palace or have trillions of dollars, because all palaces and all wealth are wavicles of what I am. Grand Canyon, skyscrapers of New York are wavicles of what I am. Sunrise, sunset, the sun, the moon, the stars, even the Milky Way are wavicles of what I am, part of what I am. And now it gets even stranger. Each of you is a wavicle of what I am. And by the transitive property, I am a wavicle of what you are. Each of us encompasses the whole universe condensed into a unique point of view. How then can I experience whatever I may need or desire? The same way I have experienced anything in my life. I must direct my attention to what I need or desire. I have directed my attention to expressing certain qualities, doing certain things, acquiring certain things. And directing my attention to what was needed or desired, I experienced those things. I moved the atoms according to the laws of the universe. Let me give you an example, or just fill this out with an illustration. It's the Milky Way. Suppose I wanted to live in a palace. I could direct my attention to living in a palace. And immediately I would imagine living in a palace. Once I begin to imagine it, I begin to feel what it would be like to live in a palace. If I fully and persistently directed my attention to living in a palace, I would begin to think about what I would need to do to acquire or rent a palace. I might research available palaces on Zillow or realtor.com. I would seek ways to make enough money to live in the palace. And then I would begin to take some kind of action if I were serious about it. And in doing that, focusing my attention on it, I might even attract an inheritance of a palace or an opportunity to reside in a palace simply through the power of the law of mind action. Right? My mind is one with the divine mind. Whatever I direct my attention to in that mind is a possibility for me, including living in a palace. Now, as a matter of fact, I have no desire to live in a palace. It's too much to clean, too much to keep in repair. I think the stress of plumbing and heating problems alone would probably kill me. I'm just saying there's a way to go about it. And the palace is already within me, but I'm going to leave it there. I'm content to know that everything is already within me because the essence of myself is God. I have made the mistake directing my attention to what I didn't want or didn't have or had but didn't want. Then I experienced more of what I didn't want, didn't have, but or had but didn't want. And then I learned about the law of mind action and started to set a different course. Began to direct my attention to good that I desired and good that I already had, entering into that consciousness of gratitude. I directed my attention away from what I didn't desire. Now, first, as I began to work with this, I was somewhat surprised and delighted to find that I began to receive, attract, or acquire what I focused upon. And what I had not wanted began to diminish as I withdrew my attention from it and focused on what I did want. Now I am content to know that everything I could ever need is already within me because my essence is God and all is in God. And as is true for me is true for you. All that you would want or desire is already within you. It's connected to your consciousness and this universal oneness and this one self. Your essence is God and all is in God. I am not the only way, truth, life, and light, but I am the way of the universe, the truth of the universe, the life and the light. I am God, and so are you. And so we are one. And so there's nothing more to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jim. There was a lot of food for thought there. And I just wonder how equivocal the wave particles can be. I hope you can stick around after our closing because we would like to have the opportunity to share with you our thoughts and questions and perspectives regarding your presentation today. So hopefully you can do that with us.
Well, I plan on it.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.